Okay, listen. I never lie to y'all, right? Sometimes I may put out an intriguing YouTube title or a persuasive thumbnail, but I never clickbait, right? For the most part, I talk about exactly what is portrayed in the title of my videos. Like I remember 2 years ago, I put out a video titled "Revealing My Source Who Confirms Kevin Durant to the Miami Heat." And it was just my little cousin who said he thinks KD is coming here.
A lot of news has been centered around your Miami Heat, so I am here today with my NBA insider to give us all the inside information.
Good jump, the camera can't see you.
Hi, with Anthony Donato.
There's been a lot of speculation that the Miami Heat are trying to land Donovan Mitchell or Kevin Durant. Do you think that we get one of those two players?
Yeah, but because we better.
So
I'll kick their butt.
are you saying the Miami Heat are going to acquire Kevin Durant
Yes.
and Donovan Mitchell?
Yes.
And do they get to keep, who are they trading?
They're trading none of their players.
But technically, I didn't lie to you. That's what my source said. He's just not a reliable source. It was a child. But that kind of relates to what we're talking about today, because I think Sam Amico is absolutely lying to us, probably. Now, he put out this article today saying that the Miami Heat and LA Lakers are potentially interested into trading into the top 5. Now, I know a lot of people today read headlines and read tweets and don't actually read the article, and that's how a lot of stuff gets taken out of context. I actually think it's a big problem with our society, but I'm doing my part by actually trying to read the articles so I don't mislead you guys. So I did read the article here, and basically all it says is there's a list of teams that may be looking to trade up, including the Sacramento Kings, Trailblazers, Miami Heat, Lakers, Magic, and Raptors. And then it's in the following line where he points out he just has to pick these two teams. He says one league source told HoopsWire last week that he envisions the Lakers and Heat making a strong play for a top 5 pick. And the reason I think Sam Amico put this in here is because he wanted to just have something that he could clickbait to put on Twitter. So he straight up, I believe, fabricated information and lied. That's what I was telling you. I would never lie to you. I would never fabricate. Do I maybe, make a title that sounds really interesting to help the CPM, clicks per minute, so people can help come to the channel? Yeah. But what also helps people come to the channel is liking the video and subscribing and commenting. So if y'all do all that good stuff for me, I greatly appreciate it too. But my point is, I don't lie to y'all. And I don't want to accuse Sam Amico of lying. It's quite possible he has a reliable source. It's just a lot of times with this stuff, they are trying to do things to get traction and get people like me to talk about it. So I guess I'm doing exactly what Sam Amico is talking about it. And the reason I am so skeptical specifically on this is just because I don't think the Miami Heat would ever do something like this. And I did look it up. In my research, I haven't seen the Miami Heat ever trade up for a pick. Of course, they've traded picks. Of course, they've traded back. But I've never seen them actually give up assets to move up higher in a draft, at least not in recent memory. So it is quite possible that Sam Amico has no sources in the Miami Heat organization, just like nobody else, because the Miami Heat are tight-lipped when it comes to, off-season moves, when it comes to injuries. And I really like that about the Miami Heat, because what we have going on in-house is none of anyone else's business. And I like how I say we, like I work for the organization. I don't, not yet at least, but maybe one day. And I know Sam Amico's name. Obviously, he is a notable reporter. I tried remembering what Miami Heat stuff he came out with recently. I couldn't remember. So I Googled Sam Amico, Miami Heat, and the first thing that came up was this article. But the second one that came up was actually from 11 years ago. And I kid you not, it said the Miami Heat are out of the race for Greg Oden and in free agency or whatever. You know who Greg Oden ended up signing with? The Miami Heat. Okay, so the only other time on record in my 60-second Google search of Sam Amico in Miami Heat was him being completely wrong. So that's basically all the context for why he might be making this up. But just from a straight, logical standpoint, I don't see why the Miami Heat would do this. They very clearly want to win now. You don't usually do that with rookies. We just saw Wembanyama be like the most dominant rookie in a very long time, and his team sucked. So what makes you think the Miami Heat are gonna be, well, it's different. I understand the Heat are actually a decent team with better pieces, but you don't usually rely on a rookie to be a guy to put you over the top, right? And on top of that, we know Pat Riley wants to whale hunt. He's always wanted to whale hunt. Now, you could say he's been sleeping and hasn't done that the last few years. Fine, whatever. But the point is, we barely have assets now to compete with other teams. How are we going to have assets to compete with other teams if we trade assets to move up from 15 to the top 5? It just doesn't make sense at all why the Heat would want to do that. They want to win now. They'd rather trade their assets to get a more established player. If not a star, if a whale isn't available, you could say, let's say he knows Mitchell doesn't want to ask out. The Hawks aren't going to trade Trae Young. Lauri Markkanen's going to sign an extension. Fine, trade up. And Pat might want to trade up to the top 5, get a guy that could play now. No, he'd rather trade the picks for maybe someone like a Dorian Finney-Smith, some sort of Kyle Kuzma, guys that are more proven and can play now. You don't go after rookies when you're trying to compete now. That's just, I feel like I'm just stating the obvious here. But I do want to talk about, let's just say in a crazy world, maybe why would he actually want to trade into the top 5? Well, obviously we know the Miami Heat need some size. That's half the comments I get on my videos. That's why I dropped the whole series a couple weeks ago talking about how the Heat can add size through the draft, free agency, through trades, right? And through the draft portion, there's really only a few guys in their range they might be able to get, like Zach Edey, obviously, Yves Missy, who I like a lot, Khalil Ware, who I know a lot of us like a lot, or even there's a couple. Oh, Kyle Filipowski was another one. Guys like that. But in the top 5, there's 2 guys that seem pretty safe that they are actually going to go that high. One of them is Alexander Sarr, so it's possible the Heat like him a lot. I know he's been compared to like Jaren Jackson Jr., who I think a player of that type would be actually phenomenal on the Miami Heat. So maybe the Heat are that much in love with Alexander Sarr that they actually think they could turn him into like a 2-way monster. Maybe they would do something like that, because I do think he's a guy that could play now just because he's a little bit bigger. He has been playing pro ball in Australia. So maybe the Heat really like a guy like that. Or maybe they really like the other guy we've heard rumored to go top 5, Donovan Clingan from UConn. He does have that champion experience from there. Maybe a little bit older, but I think he was a sophomore last year. So at least you're not talking about a one and done guy. And he's obviously massive. He's like 7'1", big body. But outside of that, there's a lot of the same concerns with him that I have with Zach Edey to a lesser extent. He's not as slow as, non-athletic as Zach Edey, but he's not super fast and agile either, right? He has fine touch around the rim, great shot blocker and stuff, good rebounder. But I feel like at that point, if you're going to take the old school center, which I kind of think Donovan Clingan is, he's not like a guy that, like I said, is mobile, doesn't stretch the floor much. If you're going to take the old school center, you might as well take the 7'4", 300-pound behemoth and Zach Edey if you're going to do one of those. And then take Edey at 15 instead of trading up to get Donovan Clingan. Because at this point, I don't even know who people think is going to be better. Sure, Donovan Clingan is mocked higher than Zach Edey, but you could probably find a lot of people that would argue Zach Edey's going to be a better player. But those are really the 2 main bigs people think could go top 5. So if the Heat were going to trade up, maybe it's because they're very high on one of them through their research. I don't really know. I did listen to Tobin's. He just dropped a YouTube video. Tobin's my favorite Heat content creator. Y'all know I love Tobin and Leroy Show. He brought up a good point in his video on this topic, which is where drafting a guy that high would be a very cheap contract. So maybe the Heat actually don't trade their number 15 pick this year. Maybe they trade 2 future first-round picks to now move up in the draft and pick in the top 5 and at 15. Because then theoretically you could have 2 real rotation players on cheap contracts. And as a team that is desperately trying to avoid that second apron coming up this year, because the ramifications of that are crazy. I just dropped the video about how that affects the Boston Celtics, and they are going to have to blow it up next offseason, if not during the middle of this offseason. The Heat want to avoid that at all costs, and they are currently like $6 million under the second apron. But if they want to try to improve their roster, they'd go over pretty easily. So a way to help kind of, alleviate that is to get rid of some of these other more expensive guys and replace them with draft picks. Instead of re-signing Caleb Martin and Hayward Highsmith, you get Alexander Sarr and whoever you want at 15. I don't know, Isaiah Collier or whatever. And plus in this draft, maybe you don't have to give up too many assets to move up. Maybe you only have to trade a second or two, second round pick or two to move up. And the Heat do have a second round pick, actually, which is another cheap contract. Would make you think maybe the Heat would want to keep that in that case then. But just because it's such there's no clear cuts, top of the draft or bottom of the draft. You see guys that are mocked 8th, be mocked 25th in another draft. You know what I mean? So because there's not such clear distinction between tiers in this draft, the price to move up may not be that expensive. And if the Heat find a guy in the top 5 to be worth their while, maybe they do move up. I do want to talk about, though, the Heat officially released their list of guys they've worked out. And all these guys are pretty much guys that are mocked around 15. This is Hoops Hype that actually keeps track of this for all teams. I do want to say, just because the Miami Heat haven't worked out a guy doesn't mean they might not be interested in drafting him. Like, they didn't work out Justice Winslow. They still took him. And I could see that doing again. But if you look at the guys on this list, at least the top, 6 or 7 guys that most of us are familiar with. Ron Holland, great defender, questionables on the jump shot. Same with Devin Carter, but Devin Carter's like 6'3", Ron Holland's like 6'8". So obviously there's a lot more potential there. And he's a lot younger. He's more of a raw prospect than Devin Carter, who's like 23, compared to like Ron Holland, who's like 19. Obviously, we know Zach Edey. Isaiah Collier, you see there, he's my favorite prospect in that range. I know there's shooting questions there too, but he shot like 33% in college. When Ron Holland last year, he was with the G League, he shot like 29% from 3, or maybe it was even worse, like 26. It was much worse. So I do feel like it would take Ron Holland a lot longer to develop that shot than Isaiah Collier. That's kind of why I do prefer Collier in that spot. But obviously, Khalil Ware is a great pick. There's just the motor concerns there. Yves Missi is sort of your Clint Capella build to a T. I think he's a guy that could play right now and be just a very solid player on the defensive end from the center position, which is really what I'd like the Heat to target when going size. I would like them to target more defense, so they have a guy that could guard the other team's big and rebound when Bam gets switched out to the guards and stuff that he does so much. And then you see here the number 25th, mocked ranked guy is Tyler Smith. He's sort of a 6'9" guy with a very nice shot, but he's also a bit of a raw prospect, like a lot of these G League, one and done guys are. They might be great players one day, but again, I'm trying to win now. I do prefer the older guys. I know the Ringer also had us taking this guy named Tyler Kolek, I think. He's a 23-year-old small white guard out of Marquette, but he could shoot the ball and he could pass. And he's a guy that at his age and his experience, he could contribute now. And that's kind of the way that I like to lean. Just like we saw with Jaime Hawkins last year. And I think Heat fans would agree that's worked out pretty well. So that's kind of my thoughts on this whole rumor, report, news, whatever you want to call it. But let me know how y'all feel down below. Is there anyone in the top 10 that you think is worth the Miami Heat actually trading up to get? Y'all let me know down in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe because I am on the grind to hit 5K subs by the start of next season. I'm less than 800 away, so I greatly appreciate the support. And I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.
Look, pull up in your city tryna get that dead face. Do it on my own, I don't need no dead weight. Had to kill him off, yeah, I need a head space. You know this homegrown bitch don't offend me.